So the last time I made a video, my friend told me that it was too long, so I made it within like a minute time span and gave you a very quick update on some stuff that we heard. And on top of that, I got a crying baby trying to go down for a nap. So let's make this quick. So, two things on the agenda today. First and foremost, talking about the November 15th update that's about to actually happen. And I think this was dev update plan for... Yep, this was going to be 15th, just making sure. And then Ramattra ability reveals. Let's cover that first, actually, because that's pretty quick. So Ramattra has been one that was that was shown off over at Overwatch League Grand Finals. They were showing off the new hero, and honestly, everybody was hoping for Mauga. I don't even know if that's how you correctly pronounce his name. But we have Ramattra instead, which is someone who we've also been expecting for a long time. And these are the supposed abilities. This came from, I forgot how you pronounce her name. Let me see. Nairi? Nairi? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Forgot to turn off my alarm. But the supposed information behind this is that this was released at a Korean conference for Overwatch League, if I recall correctly. So this is more or less a quick in-depth look before they reveal an official kit. So we start with Void Accelerator in his Omnic form, which is a default. Left click fires a projectile that advances a certain shape. Kind of weird. This might just be some bad translation, but we can deal with it. This isn't an official one anyway, so we'll wait until we get that. His right click will create a barrier at the target location. So in other words, he's pretty much like a Sigma, except a little more precise, maybe? We'll see. Vortex of Gluttony is his E ability, which I figure is his first ability button. Launches nanospheres. It explodes on contact with the ground, creating a damaging force field. I'm immediately thinking of a mix of Echo, Bastion, Grenade, and Sojourn. That's what it sounds like. It's really weird. Movement speed of enemies under the influence of the force field is slowed, so it doesn't even seem like it does any damage, or at least they haven't mentioned it does any damage. No, damaging force. I'm an idiot. I'm distracted. So it's basically Sojourn 2.0. It's basically Sojourn 2.0 is what it sounds like. Now, is it as big as Sojourn's? Is it exactly like Sojourn's? We don't know. Chastisement or Nemesis form. That's kind of weird. Transforms into Nemesis for about 8 seconds and uses the following skills. That's kind of weird. It's not disclosed how many seconds the form can be held. But yet they just said it was about 8 seconds. Anyway, the left click attacks with fists forward, generating a shockwave each time the fist is raised, and penetrates enemies in front. That's not a giggity moment. I don't know what is. His right click reduces movement speed, but greatly reduces damage from up front. So in other words, Doomfist. And when in Nemesis form, gain an additional 150 defense. Increases total health from 450 to 600. Okay. And then lastly, Destruction is ultimate. Automatically switches to Nemesis form. Okay, so when... Kind of weird, like Chastisement can only be used in Nemesis form? That's a little confusing. But again, this is coming from Korea, so it might have just been a bad translation. Creating an energy zone around it. Enemies within the energy zone take continuous damage, and the destruction is maintained as long as you deal damage to enemies within the energy zone. So that's interesting distinctions. I would like to see a show-off, hopefully very soon, and I think they might be doing it within the update, if not releasing it quite this week. Maybe next week, who knows? We don't know for certain when they're releasing anything. But let me just get this here. The contents are revealed in an Overwatch 2 Korean media conference in Korea today, and that was 4 hours ago that she made that post. I was out busy this entire day, so no more about Ramattra because there's really not anything else that we do have. Talking about the dev balance updates, it's not really that we're going over it. We already know what they are, and if we don't, I'll quickly go over them anyway. But I just wanted to quickly throw out an opinion on this, so I'm going to cover them one more time. Just a quick power read through. So for Sombra, she has heavy nerfs. Her hack ability lockout duration is reduced by 1/4 of a second. Hacked enemies are no longer valid targets for hacking again. as long as it's on them. And then the damage multiplier that they receive is now 25% instead of 40. So in other words, she's receiving a very huge nerf. She can't repeatedly hack the same target. Their lockout duration means that they're not able to use their abilities, which means they'll be able to use it a little bit faster. And then the damage that they receive is a lot less. For Genji, they reduce his maximum ammo by a total of 6 shurikens, or two primary fire clicks, and then his shuriken damage is reduced by 2 points. Zarya is having a barrier duration reduced by half a second, and her barrier cooldown increase from 10 to 11 seconds, because she's just a little too oppressive. 1 second is a very big thing, especially when it's 6 to 7 seconds, or 8 to 9, or in this instance again is going from 10 to 11. That is actually going to be pretty huge. It means that she has 1 less barrier to use within a 2-second period roughly, if she doesn't use them properly. Diva, her fusion, I think she's the only one getting a kind of a buff. Fusion spread increased. No, actually these are nerfs too. Because the spread increased means that she covers a wider area, but it also means that if they're closer, it's kind of a nerf. It's not really much of a nerf, but the booster impact damage reduced from 25 to 15. And then lastly is Kiriko's swift step invulnerability duration is now just 1/4 of a second. Thank God. Like half a second is actually too much, considering like the team fight and how it looks. It's going to be huge. So it's more or less kind of what they did with Sombra. So this is just my quick 2 cents on it, because there's, again, not really much that we can go on until it comes in. Blizzard is trying to get some data, and this is not meant to be like one of their big patchwork. This is only supposed to be a quick patchwork because there's some problems going on. People are complaining. There's a lot of a power slide that if you're not playing Sombra, Genji, Zarya, and Kiriko in your team comp, then you're basically throwing, and then everybody else is just an average pick or below. This is meant to be quick patchwork so that they can make the roster balanced up until they do their major update in the start of Season 2 while releasing Ramattra. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, this is not a big... In fact, actually, I don't even think this is going to be as impactful as people make it. Genji still has some good damage output and burst potential. Sombra is still going to be able to be oppressive if played correctly. She's just not able to get some cheap effect in, and if you were... You had to take advantage, but I think she's still going to retain some of her power, just not all of it, obviously, because she's getting some heavy nerfs. But it means that now she has to play smarter. Her hackability lockout is still kind of strong, so that means that you still have a chance to be able to take out a target when you hack them, pretty much the same playstyle. The only thing is that you can't repeatedly hack them over and over and over and over and keep the duration going. You have to wait for it to go away, and then you could do it again. But in that case, most times I've been playing my comp matches, more times than not, playing Sombra, I found that you can only get away with 1 hack, and as long as the team is focused on something else, you might be able to get away with doing it again and again and again. But now this enforces you to probably stay hidden a little bit longer, or it forces you out of the back line and pushes you back to wherever you teleported to. And then the damage multiplier is still 25%. That's still pretty huge considering. And it should make life a little easier for everybody who's facing her, because initially what they mentioned here anyway was that they were trying to make it so that way, yes, it would give Sombra the advantage in a team fight for that, but essentially it was that they wanted to give the person who was hacked a chance to fight back, as long as they were aware they wouldn't be totally punished. But in this instance, she was just able to destroy them for a lot longer of a period, so this is a very good update in my opinion. Genji, again, I don't think he's going to be that bad. Honestly, I think he's still pretty strong. He's going to have less ammo, which is good, and he's going to have less damage, which is also good. I know a lot of people disagree in saying by nerfing his damage he's going to be useless. No, he's not going to be useless. He still has his combos. He still has his damage, because at the end of the day, when he goes up against a squishy, that's still going to be a great amount of damage. He's still going to be able to take out tracers, no problem. He's going to take out any 200 HP hero, no problem. He might obviously have a lot less damage than a tank, but let's be 100% honest with each other, he's not going to have an issue. you just have to learn to play around that. Same thing with Zarya. Barrier reduction and all that. She was a very oppressive tank who's getting so much value. Couple that with the fact that a majority of the time that her value was coming from her being pocketed. Wow. So her barrier duration reduced back to 2 seconds. That's good because 2.5 seconds was always mistiming people and throwing them off. Why it was increased in the first place, we never know. And then the cooldown to 11 seconds is good because it means that we have a little bit more time to actually do something to her, along with the fact that she has to time her windows and again input a little bit of skill versus just, soaking it up like nonchalantly. Diva is way too deadly, as they say, right here. She was feeling too deadly after the last round of changes. I don't really see her as too big of a problem if you play smart, but at the same time, she definitely was oppressive and in your face. So it depended on the hero you were playing, and it depended if she was getting pocketed. So we'll see how this turns out for her. I don't have really much of an opinion. Kiriko needs a little bit more than just the Swift Step nerf. I think she needs just a little bit more. I just don't know what. Honestly, I just don't think that she should be doing so much damage, considering. But I digress. I don't know how to balance her. It's still too soon, and I don't play her enough or play against her enough to actually know. She is pretty easy to take out a good portion of the time, but people are still learning her too, so we got to give it more time. But her Swift Step in vulnerability duration, totally agree with it. 0.4 seconds, it was we couldn't time that either, the same thing. If you're wondering what point fraction of a second does, refer back to Zarya with that 1/2 second right there between the bubble duration, and you'll see exactly what's going on. Other than that, I don't really have anything to add. I think that these are not bad. Honestly, it's not going to really change anything. Genji's probably still going to be a must pick, even if he's doing less damage. Tracer is still a must pick in the Overwatch League alongside Sojourn, and Sojourn's not even included here. So even if we lose out on Genji, we still have a pretty decent Sombra, and we still have a pretty decent Sojourn. So either way, we're not really losing too much value. Honestly, I think people just need to wait for it to come out. And on top of that, one last thing. Everybody's complaining that Blizzard doesn't know what they're doing. Here's the fact. They have the play data. They see it, and they're monitoring each rank, and they're just trying to give the most reasonable answers, and that's about as much as I will give them. I don't know how much more lenience that I could give them as far as the actual balance updates, but they have the actual play data, and you can't argue when you have the data in front of them. They know what they're doing, for the most part. Now, yes, the balance of the game might be a little wonky, but remember that we're also having more heroes reduced within a frequent time. We're having more balance patches. The game just started about a month ago. Let's give them a little more time before we start flaming them for bad in fact, actually, these buffs are not even that severe. I've seen worse buffs and worse nerfs. And this is okay, so when it comes to the Sojourn thing, by the way, if they don't nerf her heavily, she does need a heavy nerf, unfortunately. What they'll do, nobody knows. They're saying that she's struggling in the lower ranks, and someone made a pretty good argument that if you're really basing it on the lower ranks where people don't know how to play a hero for, in this instance, the time frame of, seasons worth of time, then that's a player issue and not a hero issue. And you shouldn't really be paying attention to that data. They're having trouble because she's a high skill ceiling hero is what they wrote. But whether or not I agree with that still faces the point that lower ranks shouldn't dictate how a hero balance should be made, because they don't utilize the hero at the best of their abilities. You need to find the one who utilizes it at best, because they will bring out the true potential of the hero. And that's why the higher ranks are the ones typically dictating it, and I have no problem with the higher ranks dictating how the balance of the game goes, because they give the most accurate data. So it results in a more balanced game, I would hope, and I don't really have much more of an opinion. It's probably gonna get me ratioed, or people are gonna flame me, I don't know. But if you guys have any opinions, please leave them in the comments section below. I'd love to actually talk about this. If more news comes out, I'll be doing that. I've been trying to do the news, but there was just a dry spell for a time because there's no information, not really much to talk about. One other thing, though, I might be looking into 2 possible things on this channel. Number one, doing VOD reviews for low rank players, specifically bronze and silvers, who want to improve. I myself am a mid to high gold player, so I want to try and help out on the lower ranks a little bit. Just something to do. And then the second thing I plan on doing is talking more on my aim guide and try to do like hero guides. May or may not do that one because I'm not as good as some other players, but I do know that there are heroes that I am decent with that I could give some tips on. So I'll figure that out as time goes on. But other than that, I'm going to go because I'm hungry. My baby calmed down. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.